There's literally 3 days left in January and I haven't even attempted to make a YouTube video. So sorry for that delay, but I am back. Welcome to 2022 and this is the first video of the new year. My name's Brandon. If you're new to the channel, we make videos all about videos, photos and everything related to a camera. So if you dig that stuff, please consider to subscribe and like this video because it really helps out the channel and it helps me to make more content for you guys. Because this channel is based around beginners, I figured starting in the new year, I want to focus a lot more on tips and tricks that I've learned during my learning process as a beginner to kind of take my videos and photos to the next level. And with that said, today we're going to look at videos and particularly settings that you can use to just elevate your video and to make sure that your videos always look the best they can in camera with its settings. Okay, so with that said, let's just hop straight into the video because I don't want to waste any of you guys' time. Okay, cool. So usually when I go out to go shoot video, I usually categorize my videos into two main big blocks of how I want to shoot them. Firstly being like your normal footage, which would be like talking head or anything that you don't want to be slow motion. And then obviously the next one would be slow motion. These are my two blocks that I kind of decide what settings I need to use to have the optimum look that we're going for each video type. So let's start with the first one and make it like your normal video. This usually is done in 24 frames a second, or if you're in certain regions of the world like I am, you use 25 frames a second. And then moving on to slow motion, you can either have 60 frames a second or 120 frames a second, depending on what camera you have. And like me, because I'm in a PAL, or PAL, I don't know what it's called, but I'm in a different region. So for me, I use 100 frames or 50 frames a second. So now that we know what frames your camera has to be in for the certain type of video you want to make, now let's move on to your shutter speed because this also plays a big role in your video. And usually with this, it's quite simple, especially when you're a beginner. You don't want to kind of complicate things for yourself. So it's the easiest way to do it is just remember whatever your frame rate is, double that for your shutter speed. So for example, if your frame rate is 60 frames a second, all you got to do for your shutter speed is double that to 120. Then you know you'll be good and everything won't look weird and it will look as smooth as it can. And the same can be said about videos that are shot in 24 frames. You would just double that to get 48, which I don't think most cameras have. So usually I just put my shutter speed to 50. Okay, so there we have it. You have your frames that you know you want to shoot in, and then you have your shutter speed all sorted out. Basically all the rest, like aperture and your ISO, is all up to you to expose the video. Because we have the rule with the shutter speed, you can't now use that to change the exposure. And now you have to work with your ISO and aperture to get the right exposure for your video. Okay, and some of you probably also might know this already, but when you're out in bright daylight, it's quite difficult to stay to this rule because when you shoot in like a normal frame, like 24 frames a second, and you have to keep your shutter speed to that 50 frames a second, or like if you have to keep your shutter to 50, you kind of will realize that your footage would be quite bright and blown out. And for that you use something called a variable ND or just the ND filter. This is basically a whole video on its own, and it's going to take a while to explain what this thing actually does, but you probably heard on the internet, and the easiest way to explain it, it's like sunglasses for your camera. So once you pop one of these on, depending on the different intensity you want for your video, pop one of these things on and it will sort it out so you can still use the right shutter speed, but then you can still open up your aperture to get that nice blurry background that everyone loves to have in their video. Okay, so with that said, that's basically all you need to just get started creating videos that look a little bit better. I know there's a lot more you can go into, but I kind of focused this video around you guys that are starting and don't know much about video at all, but you want to get into it. So hopefully this will give you some guidance to follow while you're out shooting and just get you more comfortable using the settings, and from there you can basically go out, do whatever you want, and use that creative expression you all want to use so badly to get the most epic shots that you can. But hopefully that helped you and you learned something new. So with that said, hope you have a blessed 2022, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.